Hello and welcome once again, probably for the first time, to Daisybrain video. As you can see, I brought my treadmill desk out here to the woods because I wanted to share with you a song that's really fun to sing with kids. It's a great camp song or school song, and one of the wonderful things about it is that it's a sing-along, kids can participate, and it's got all sorts of fun animal songs. It's called The Foolish Frog. It's a traditional song. I'm singing a version adapted from a version that Pete Seeger used to sing. And it goes like this. About 100 years ago, there was a farmer walking down in this area, walking toward town. Town was very small back then, just had one corner grocery store. And she was whistling a song. She used to like to walk into town whistling a song, and the song went like this. And she was pretty happy with that song. She said, that is a great song. It's one of my best songs ever. I just wish I had words. And as she walked toward the Yankee-Yank, which is a tributary to the river, it's a place where water flows into the river here. It's up a little bit north of here. She saw a little bridge, and she walked on the bridge thinking about the song, and she saw a bullfrog. And the bullfrog was jumping across the Yankee-Yank from one bank, which is the part of on the side of the water, to the other bank. As she's watching the bullfrog, it fell in the water and went splash and got all wet and looked as embarrassed as a bullfrog can look. And she laughed and laughed. The farmer did, not the bullfrog. And then as she was walking into town, she said, I've got the words of the song. She started singing it. And it went like this. Oh, away down south in the Yankety-Yank, a bullfrog jumped from bank to bank just because there's nothing better for to do. She stubbed her toe and she fell in the water. You can hear her holler for a mile and a quarter just because there's nothing better for to do. And she was pretty happy with that song. She got into town. She went to the store and she said, Beatrice, that was the name of the store owner, I've got this great song. And Beatrice said, oh, Gertrude, that was the name of the farmer. I've heard your songs. You always have a great song. I'm tired of your song. No, this one's better, Beatrice, or Gertrude, whatever I called you before, because this is my best song yet. Okay, let's hear it. And she sang the song. Away down south in the Yankety-Yank, a bullfrog jumped from bank to bank just because there's nothing better for to do. And Beatrice, the store owner, was saying, this is a pretty good song. And she started singing along. Oh, she stubbed her toe and she fell in the water. You could hear her holler for a mile and a quarter just because there's nothing better for to do. And they started singing the song, and Beatrice said, I've got an idea. Let's shut the store down and have a party. And they started calling people in, and they were bringing in free, they took out the soda crackers and the juice, and they started eating the juice. Well, they started drinking the juice and eating the soda crackers, and everybody was in there singing the song, and they were all happy as could be, all the people in town. Meanwhile, back home, Gertrude's wife and son were sitting there waiting for Gertrude to come back so they could have dinner. They were sitting there at the table and getting more and more worried. So her wife said to her son, Jojo, go into town and see where your ma has gone to. And so they used an extra 2 for no reason. And so Jojo went into town, and this was happening all around, for miles and miles. All the husbands and wives of the farmers who were in town were sitting there with their families, wondering what happened to their husbands and wives, and they were all sending their kids into town. And the kids, when they got close to that barn, they heard the music way down south in the Yankety-Yank. They went inside, they discovered it was a party, and they started eating the free soda crackers and drinking the free juice, and they were dancing and having a good time. Well, pretty soon, all of the husbands and wives who were left at home started getting angry. And they got angrier and angrier. And as was the custom back then, they took frying pans, because they like to swing them around when they're angry. And they walked into town all angry. And they got close to that store. They got close to that store, and they started hearing the music, and pretty soon they forgot all about being angry, and they dropped the frying pan, they went inside, and they started eating the soda crackers and drinking the juice, and they were all dancing, and everybody for miles around was stuffed into this little store singing, away down south in the Yankety-Yank, a bullfrog jumped from a bank to bank just because there's nothing better for to do. She stubbed her toe and she fell in the water. You could hear her holler for a mile and a quarter just because there's nothing better for to do. Well, back home, with all the people up in the store in town, the cows in the barns started feeling mighty uncomfortable because no one was coming around to milk them. And if you're a cow and you don't get milk, you might start wondering where people are. And the cows, they were getting agitated, and they walked right out of the barns, and they looked around for the people, and they started walking into town. Well, pretty soon all the cows got so close that they could hear the music inside the store, and they started squeezing in the store, and they joined in. They were mooing their song. Oh, a moo 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 moo, a moo 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 moo, a moo 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 moo. And the cows were singing, their tails were swishing out the windows, and the people were dancing and singing, eating the free soda crackers, drinking the juice. After a little while, the chickens were there in the barn alone, and they thought, what happened to the cows? How come nobody's coming to get our eggs? And the chickens, they started walking, and you know how it sounds chickens make. They got into the store, and they started singing too. The chickens were on the cows' heads, and the tails of the cows were swishing out the windows, and everybody danced, have a great time. Well, what's that? You're right. Pigs. The pigs, the same thing. What kind of sounds the pig makes? That's right. They oink. And so the pigs got into town. They squeezed into that store. This was a very tight squeeze, but they kind of climbed on top of the cows, and the chickens got on the heads of the pigs, and the pigs started saying, oink, 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 oink. And so the pigs were dancing and singing in the pig kind of way, and the cows and the chickens and the people. Well, back home at the farms, the barns felt very lonely and empty. What happened to the cows, chickens, and pigs? They didn't know. And so the barns pulled themselves out of their foundations. And they did. And barns, I don't know if you've ever heard a barn walk, but they make a creaking sound like creak, creak. And they got in, actually, the barns went into town looking for everybody, and they squeezed into that corner store, and they started singing in barn language, creak, 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 creak. So the barns, everyone was having a great time, but back home, the grass was wondering, how come the cows aren't nibbling me? The grass is growing too tall. It actually feels, it was kind of like getting a haircut, and the grass was looking around, and the way that grass can look around, and the grass decided to go look for everybody, and the grass started swishing into town, swish, 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 and the grass got into town and they squeezed under the door of the store, and they started dancing and singing their grass language, which goes like this. Oh, swish, 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 a swish, 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 swish. And so pretty soon, back at the Yankee-Yank, which was that river, that tributary of water, the muddy banks were wondering what happened to the grass. The grass used to hold them in place so they wouldn't get eroded and wash away. And so the mud started glurgling into town. And mud, what kind of sound does mud make? Kind of a bloop, bloop. Yeah, exactly, bloop, bloop. And the mud squished in through all the holes in the building downtown with all the people and the grass and the cows and the chickens and the pigs. And the mud was singing a bloop, 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 bloop. And pretty soon, they were all, I don't know how mud eats crackers or drinks juice, but they were, and everyone was having a great time until the water of the Yankee-Yank looked around and was like, what happened to the bank? What am I supposed to flow in between? And the water gurgled into town, gurgle, 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 and went right into the barn, into that store. And so the water was singing too. A gurgle, 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 gurgle. It's more like that. And pretty soon the people on the treadmill desks, everybody was in town and singing. Away down south in the Yankety-Yank, a bullfrog jumped from bank to bank just because there's nothing better for to do. Speaking of that bullfrog, suddenly she found herself in midair looking around, and there was no bank to land on. There was no water underneath her. Where am I? Thought the bullfrog. And she started hopping. And she got closer and closer to the store until she heard some singing. What's all that singing about? She thought. And she listened, and she heard it. Oh, away down south in the Yankety-Yank, a bullfrog jumps from bank to bank just because there's nothing better for to do. She stubbed her toe and she fell in the water. You could hear her holler for a mile and a quarter just because there's nothing better for to do. And the bullfrog said, they're singing They're singing about me. And she got all filled up with pride. They're singing about me. And her chest puffed up with pride and got bigger and bigger and bigger until kablam, she exploded. And it was a huge explosion, and there were telephones going, and there were cows in the air, and chickens, and feathers, and horses, and grass, and mud, and water, and people. Everybody flew up into the air and landed back home exactly where they're supposed to be, in their barns, on the ground, in the water, at their dinner table, sitting down for dinner, and everything went completely back to normal, except nobody ever heard from that bullfrog again. But sometimes when I'm walking around here late at night, and I listen carefully, I think I can hear a frog singing a song that goes like this. A croak, 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 croak. And that's the song of the foolish frog that you can share with children of all ages. It's a great song. Teaches a little bit about onomatopoeia, if you're talking about the sounds the animals make. It's a fun participation song, an imagination song, and it's just a fun song. Thanks for listening, and now you may continue with your regularly scheduled internet experience.